got through one winter storm and we're heading into another. But in between, we're going to do what we do. And today we're going to bake bread. This is Bread Baking 108. And I am so excited because this particular dough, we've moved forward through the most basic lean doughs, which means flour, salt, water, and yeast. That's your simple standard lean dough. It's beautiful. You can do so many things with it, and it's just simply great bread. But as we've moved forward, and now we're up to number 8 in our series, we're starting to use enrichments. Now, what does that mean? That means we're adding dairy products. So we're adding milk, we're adding butter, we're adding eggs. This completely changes our texture, and it gives us a softer, more beautiful crumb. It's not an open crumb, it's tender and it's lovely. And what makes this dough so special is that in the way of enriched doughs, it's a really easy one. The one that you may know better is brioche, which is a much longer process. It takes a ton of eggs, and it's a 2-day process. Well, this one is going to give you, it's not going to give you brioche, but it's going to give you something that you'll love almost as much, if not more, and you can do so many things with it. And we're going to do that today, right here, before the snow gets us again. Let's do it. Now, as always, I have made for you a printable, but I try to add as much as I get out of my face. I'm sorry. I don't know what that was, but I felt attacked. Anyhow, so in the printable I gave you today, I gave you for 1 loaf because perhaps you have a small family or that's all you need, but I also gave you bulk sizes for bigger families or for groups that maybe perhaps want to prepare in advance, have them in the freezer ready to go. I prefer, if I'm going to be heating up the house anyway, well, it's cold out, so it works out in our favor. But if I'm going to go through all the effort, I like to make more than one, so I have some tucked away for those days where I just don't feel like baking or I have lots of other things to do. And we're going into gardening season, which means we have to start thinking in the way of, well, I'm going to be coming back from there exhausted. So I want to have, but I don't want to sacrifice the good food. So you start to think in advance and say, I'm going to prepare having all that good stuff at the ready. So when I come back in there and I'm dragging myself in, and I mean dragging, you'll see, we still have our stuff. We still have the goods. So in here, I gave you a single loaf. I gave you for 3 and I gave you for 4. So you don't have to do the math. I mean, it wasn't difficult at all for you anyway, but I just did it for you so you don't have to think about it. I gave very detailed instructions of what you'll be looking for in the way of the feel of the dough, because giving you an exact time with a mixer, well, my mixer may behave differently than yours. So it's better to give you a benchmark to look for than to say exactly this, this many minutes. And of course, this can be done by hand. Now, I will tell you, by hand, it is a little more challenging. But can it be done? Absolutely, I've done it. I've done it many times. But I will be also honest and say I didn't enjoy any of them. So there's that. But the ability is there. I give you all the instructions for that. And I even gave you for freezing, I gave you all the instructions. So my goal is to give you as much value packed into these printables as I possibly can think of. Because I want us to enjoy this. I want this to be something that we're building together. So there's that. We've got flour, butter, honey, yeast, salt, sugar, eggs, and milk. Now I'm doing 2 loaves because I want to show you 2 different shaping methods. I'm going to show you one that's really pretty and it's easy, but it kind of gives you the look of being special. Meanwhile, it's super easy, but you'll get full credit for having done something awesome because we're awesome. And the other I'm going to show you is hamburger buns. They freeze beautifully, and it will eliminate that need for saying, oh, I wanted to make burgers, I don't have buns, have somebody just stop and pick some up from the store. No, we're not doing that. We're filling the freezer. We're going to have our homemade stuff at the ready. And so we've got all our ingredients, and it's always best to do this way. This is called mise en place. This is how it's worded in professional kitchens, which is my background. You may have noticed that by now. So we always prepare everything in advance so that we're not trying to measure while we've got the mixer running and we've got all the things. Plus, what's more obnoxious than finding out when you get to you're right about ready and you go to add eggs and you realize you only had 2 eggs left and they look like hell. My eggs are fresh from the chickens, so sometimes they're fertilized or something weird happens and oh boy. And we don't get very many eggs this time of year. In fact, we got 2. and we have a lot of chickens and only 2. So what we have out there are a bunch of quitters. That's not true. They're delightful, but 2, come on. I mean, I'm bringing in special food to keep them warm and cozy, and they give me 2. Whatever. Anyhow, so you want to make sure you have everything ready so you can pick up your tray, go right to wherever your mixer is, and we just go through the process, and it's super easy. Now, we want to proof this in our bulk fermentation. That means our first rise. When you hear somebody say your bulk fermentation, that just means it's rising in whatever covered, sealed container you have, and it's not been shaped yet, it's not been portioned yet, nothing's happened to it. It's literally still just a bulk of dough. So we're not worried about any of the fancy language. Bulk fermentation just means the whole pile in a bucket. Okay, so we want to make sure that we do that in a warm setting, especially when our homes are very likely, I mean, we're in Southern Virginia and it is 18 degrees here. So, and yet somehow I'm still having a hot flash. Can you believe that? I mean, come on. We both know I'm not going to edit it out. Just forget it. So you either have a proof setting on your oven, which I do, but I'm not going to use that today. I'm going to use something that I really do enjoy. And it is, I've had it for, oh gosh, maybe 6 years, maybe more. And you know what, here, I'll show it to you. What is this? I'll put it here. This is the Broad & Taylor, this is the Broad & Taylor proofer. And it is a great tool. This is not sponsored, it's just mine. I've had it for years and years. But when you're dealing with really cold conditions, or you need to be really exacting in your temperature, it allows you to control everything digitally, which is fabulous. Okay, if you don't have that, the other thing you can do, which is for free in most cases, is you take a nice bowl of warm water, hot from your tap, and you put it on the bottom shelf in your microwave, if you have the shelf in the middle, and you put your covered dough on top. Close the microwave. That actually creates that perfect, warm, steamy environment that will still give you a beautiful proofing chamber without having spent any money. So any budget, we can get this done, whether it be in the oven with the light on, whether it be a proof setting, whether it be one of these, or in the microwave. Or if none of those work, just a really nice warm couple of towels to keep it cozy. Find a spot in the kitchen that's getting no drafts, which would not be this one because I've got a fan running here trying to keep me alive from hot flashes. Lord help me. Anyhow, I'll meet you over at the mixer. I will take care of this hot flash, and we're going to make milk dough. So we've got our milk warm, not hot, very, very important. We're going to add our sugar. Now remember, everything was pre-measured, so this is nice and easy. Dissolve the sugar. Just give it a good mix, because otherwise, when you go to pour it into your mixing bowl, your sugar tries to stay behind in the bowl. And we don't want that. We've got our yeast. We've got our eggs. Don't do what I'm doing. Crack your eggs separately into a separate bowl. That's a no-no what I just did. So on that one, do as I say, not as I do. I'll put myself on timeout later. Problem is, I love being on timeout. Just sit there and think. Remember when we were kids and being on timeout was the worst thing in the world? Now it sounds like heaven. What on earth? Okay, we've got our honey. Isn't this honey beautiful? Absolutely beautiful. This is coming to the end of our honey from our bees. So when we run out, the next source that I use is Azure Standard. They do a great job. I really enjoy everything I've gotten from them. I very rarely have an issue. Not a sponsored link, just my opinion. Now, I like to really get in here and mix everything so that there's no separation at the bottom. So just give that a moment. Just really get in there. Now, notice I did not add the salt. Salt stays away from the yeast. I will add the salt separately in with the flour. And I've also got, let's see if I'm in the frame here, my softened butter. Okay, so off to the mixer. In case you're ever wondering, what does it look like when your yeast, now I use instant yeast, so I don't need to proof it, but this is what it looks like when it is all puffy and foamy. And you see someone say, you know, work with your yeast until it is nice and foamy. This is what they're referring to. You see those bubbles? You see that foam at the top? That's what they mean. If you're using active dry yeast and you've proofed it or made the attempt to proof it, and you've not seen these bubbles and this foam, your yeast is dead. Stop right there before you waste the rest of your ingredients. Okay? I'm using instant and I go through yeast like poop through a goose. I tried to think of not saying that, but that's all I have. So I never have yeast expire. But if you're not as lunatic a baker as I am, there's a chance that you should buy yeast in smaller packages. I buy it in bulk, but buy it in those little packages so that you don't waste. Waste is the worst. So we've got our flour. I just added the salt. Give it a good mix. And now I'm just going to add our liquid right down the side. We're going to let this keep going until the dough pulls together, and then we're going to add our butter, little bits at a time. That is our last step while still in the mixer. But right now, I'm going to turn this off so you're not enduring this, and I'm going to turn it back on and show you what you're looking for before you add the butter. Okay, you see? We've got it's just a clump. It's very shaggy. It is not what we would call a beautiful dough, but this is where adding the fat changes everything. So our fat, in this case butter, is softened so that it's easily manipulated in my fingers, okay? And we're going to turn the mixer on, and we're going to drop in our butter, little bits at a time. Before you add in the next butter, make sure that the butter you added before has been pulled in and has been worked in. If you don't, when you add butter too quickly, the butter does not get absorbed and worked into the dough, and it ends up sticking to the sides, and you have to now chase it around the bowl. We have enough to do, no time for butter chasing. The butter is all added, and so now we're just kneading until we get the right texture. We're looking for smooth and silky. Okay, and here we are. Look how beautiful this dough is. So we just give it a quick little knead by hand, only to just give it a little bit of shape so that we can drop it into our proofing bucket and not just drop in a blob. Okay, so you see, but look at that. Isn't that beautiful? And it is so silky. Really, just a beautiful dough. So now we're going to use our proofing bucket, which I've shown you many times. Let me back out. So, whoop, that's in, stupid. Okay, so it's this with the lid. This is made by Cambros. I'll link it. These things last for such a long time. I've had this at least a decade. So when you make, a few investments in tools, you get the good ones. They just last a really long time. Now this comes with a snapping on lid. I just drop the dough in. And we're going to put this in our proofer, and it's going to be in there for about 90 minutes until it's doubled in size. So here we are. Our dough has obviously risen beautifully, and that was the result of proofing this in the Broad and Taylor proofer. It was nice and warm. I had it set to 78 degrees because it is so incredibly cold in this house. I am freezing. So now what we want to do, we're going to do our first shaping. And I prepared my loaf pan with parchment in it. Okay. I prepared this dough to make 2 loaves. we can weigh it to make sure we're you know what, why don't we? So we have 1,685 grams. So we're going to divide this into 842 grams each. Now I'm just going to eyeball it and then measure the half and then make the adjustments. That was how far off I was. Pretty good. Okay, so this one we'll set aside for a moment. And to keep it from forming a skin, we'll just cover it with our little plastic. Okay, so now this one, we are going to divide into 3. As even as possible. We could, of course, weigh this and have them dead on. Okay, so now we've divided the piece that we had that was into 280 grams each. Okay, so now to get this lovely shape that I was talking about, we're going to press this all the way out. Super simple. We're not going to overcomplicate the world. We're just going to press it out. Move you out of the way. Don't worry about this extra piece that we have here. That's going to be rolled into the center. It will not show. Super simple, just an easy rollout, nothing complicated at all, just like that. And the other two are going to look just the same. Okay, doesn't have to be exact. Just has to be pretty close, and you'll see why in just a moment. And our last one. So simple, and it ends up being so cute. Now we just want to make sure that we are, hey, well, I'm just dropping the whole world over here. We want to, there we go. Okay, so nothing complicated here whatsoever. Let's just still make sure I'm in. You can see me? Yes. Roll. Okay, and then we're going to pinch our seam closed. See? So we have like, it looks like a fin, okay? And then we're just going to lay that flat, okay? Take your fingers on either side and put your fingers inside. Okay, so that gives you a shape that looks like this. Okay, and we're going to do that same thing 3 times. Pinch the seam closed. Make that little fin. See, like that? Lay it over. Put our little roll on the seam side down with our fingers right in here. You can almost feel my fingers touching each other. Okay? Okay, pinch, make our little fin, so it looks like that. Lay that over, so it's on on its little side, on it, laying on top of that seam, and with our fingers, go right in. Okay. Now we take our prepared pan, and we are going to put our dough in. 1, 2, 3. Now we need a little bit of room between each because these are still going to rise. So we're going to give them a little bit of room. I'm going to tip this over so you can see. Make sure the seam side is down. Okay. That's what we're looking for. We are going to put our shower cap over the top, and this is going to go back into our proofer. Now I'm going to show you, while this is on its final proof, I'm going to show you what we're going to do with the other half. While we're working on shaping our dough, our oven is being preheated to 350 degrees. Now you'll notice when we bake bread, usually our oven is screaming hot. But when you're working with enriched breads, with eggs and butter and milk, you definitely have to bring that temperature down. Okay, so 350, 375. I'm on convection, so I'm at 350. Okay, so now we know that we want 8 hamburger buns with this piece here, so we have to put this on the scale, get our weight, and then divide by 8. The easiest way to do this is to go ahead and divide into your 8, and then we're going to individually weigh these, and then when one is heavy, we take a little bit from the one that's heavy, and we just tap it right on top of the one that's light. Okay, so you're going to see me do that. I'm just going to leave it here. 103. So when you have one that's that heavy, you cut off a little bit. Perfect. Perfect. Nope. Just a hair over. We're weighing, so we might as well be exact. Perfect. Okay, that's pretty darn close. Let's take a little snip from here. There we go. So now we shape. So we have a nice skin there. We're just about sealed here. We just pinch to make sure we're sealed. Give it another quick roll. Nice and tight. On to the next. We're going to push the extra pieces that we had, put them in the center. Pinch, pinch, flip it over. And then with our finger cage that I've shown you before, I'll go slower. We're just going to roll, and this is going to tighten. That's why there's no flour down on the board. We need it to stick. We need it to stick a little bit so that that bottom catches, so that we can get our perfect little bun. get them covered with a damp towel. And I like to put these on top of the stove, which is already warming up, so that they can have a nice cozy place to finish their final rise. So let me get that. Okay. And these will finish their final rise. Here's the other alternative you have. This is a burger bun pan, and I think it's great. I absolutely love it. So, I'm just going to go ahead and put these in here. So we'll bake 6 in this pan, and the other 2 will be freeform. Okay. And then I'm going to set this whole thing on top of the stove where it's nice and warm, because the stove is coming to temperature. And I'll show you what it looks like before we go in and we add our egg. I like to add just a little bit of salt to my egg wash. Just a tiny little splash of water. We're going to let our dough rise for between 30 and 45 minutes. If your home is quite cool, it may take as much as 75 minutes. You're waiting for it to be nice and poofy, and in your loaf pan, you're waiting for the dough to rise to the edge of the pan. So here we are. It's been about 40 minutes, maybe 45 maybe. It is so cold. I've got the heat on, I'm doing everything I can, but it is currently 15 degrees outside. And unfortunately, this is a new construction house. Oh, my dreams of having one of those old houses is long gone, so I spend my time trying to make a new house look old. You didn't ask that, and I don't know why I shared it. Sorry about that. My internal monologue slipped out again. All right, so here we are. We're going to, oh, there goes the timer. We're just egg washing the top of our beautiful loaf. How cute are these? It's just such a simple thing, and it just looks so pretty. Okay, so here we are. We're going to put this in the oven. We're still waiting on our burger buns. I'm going to bring them over and get them egg washed while this goes in the oven. This is a pretty big loaf that I've got here. So this is probably going to take the better part of 40 minutes, but I'm going to tell you exactly how long it takes, because we're going to check by temperature, not by time. Temperature is what matters. Always take your dough's temperature, or excuse me, your bread's temperature coming out of the oven. Don't trust, well, the recipe said 30 minutes. Well, it's 30 minutes in their oven. It might not be 30 minutes in yours. Always go with temperature. Now here we are putting our lovely egg wash. Now, I think I said it, but I'm not 100% sure. I put a little pinch of salt in my egg wash. It just adds a beautiful flavor. It won't read as salt. It just reads as savory. Now, this is the point where you decide: do you want poppy seeds? Oh, there go the geese. Do you want poppy seeds? Do you want sesame seeds? Do you want dehydrated onions? Do you want absolutely nothing and just maybe a little cracked pepper? Do you want Parmesan cheese? These are your rolls. You make them as you'd like to have them. Equipment. But I will tell you that this pan is really a very nice thing to have. I do recommend it. I don't even know who makes it. USA Pan. Okay, I don't know. I will link it. Because you end up with perfectly shaped rolls. Absolutely perfect. And it's just nice. It really, really is. Now I have the other two on here, so you'll see how they come out. They're all delicious. I mean, they'll always be delicious. But when you're looking for absolutely perfect, this pan is a nice thing to have. If you've got a bigger family, obviously you need more than one pan. Okay, so I'm going to let this continue its final rise. This needs another maybe 12 to 15 minutes. The temperature in here is just really low. So that's what's slowing us down. The lower the temperature, the longer it takes to rise. The warmer the temperature, the faster things go, which is why you'll notice when we get to the sourdough series, which is a whole monster unto itself, but I absolutely adore baking sourdough, and I grind all my own wheat and I make my own blends and all that stuff, and I'm going to show you every bit of it. When you see my wheat collection, please don't judge me. I have a problem. And they don't have a meeting for people who collect whole grains. I don't know. Now I'm embarrassed. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get these over here and try to get them to warm up on top of the stove. And we'll come back when we're all done and I'll show you these beautiful rolls. And another thing that is really fun to consider putting on your rolls is everything bagel. It's got all the things in it: sesame seeds, pink salt, garlic, onions, poppy seeds. It's just delicious. And it's really good on rolls. In fact, I'll do a few so you can see. So that's what it looks like when it's got the everything bagel on it. It is so delicious. And it's real. The garlic is toasted in that particular blend and it just smells so good. So I figured, let's go with that. Here we are. Aren't they pretty? Let's see. Let's turn you around, darling. Oh, look how cute you are. Look at the top. Just beautiful. Such a simple bread to make, a beautiful dough. The texture is incredible, but when you taste it, you're going to love it. And there's so many things you can do with this dough. And when you have your leftovers, it makes amazing French toast and bread pudding. I hope you love it. I hope you try it. Please let me know what you think. I truly do care what you think. I get to the comments as fast as I can because it's important to me. I want to see what you're sharing. I want to know. When you share things with me, it means the world to me. I'm doing my very best to get to them, and I will get to them. Thank you so very much. Stay warm. I'll see you next time.